Okay, so everybody swears by Dawn dish soap, so that's what I'm using is Dawn dish soap. So I used quite a bit of grease. Well, what would be the word? Quite a bit of oil to spin this because this fleece is actually 3 years old. We haven't had a brown sheet since the first year we were here. And so that meant I needed to use an awful lot of, I needed to use a lot of oil to be able to spin it. And the reason that I'm doing this is not because I'm going to dye it and I need the oils out. The reason I'm doing this is because, in order to get the twist to set, you have to get your wool wet. And then once you hang it and dry it, it will all have a uniform twist. So instead of having some that's tighter and some that's looser and some that's wider and some that's thinner, it'll all be uniform. And instead of having a slant to the look of the sweater, it will all be uniform up and down. It just is a nice thing to do to your yarn. And I'm going to make sure that it's the same temperature going in as what just came out. I'm just going to rinse all that soap out and then I'm going to go ahead and put it in the bowl after it's drained. So once it's finished and it's rinsed, I'm going to put a little bit of white vinegar in because that will make it softer. And that'll just be part of the final rinse. And then I'm going to pull the plug and let all that water drain out for probably 20 minutes till it's really pretty dry, and then I'll hang it. Paige, what were my original instructions? The thing I told you when you went outside, what were your instructions?
To not go anywhere but the canal.
Then what is the answer?
No. Kaya just, I thought Kaya was just.
So I have a towel here for underneath the stove so that it's not dripping on the floor making a mess. And I have everything set up. It's not as many skeins as last time because I did this a little bit finer, so it won't require as many skeins. And I think it'll turn out pretty good. The hard part about hand-carded wool is that sometimes it takes a bit to get into the groove of what you're doing. And the time it takes you to get into your groove is time where you're going to have varying thicknesses and tension on your yarn. And that's why it's hard if you haven't been carding and haven't been spinning for a while, It's why you want to make sure that you take a couple days, even a couple weeks, to hit that stride again. Otherwise, in one garment, you're going to have all sorts of multiple characteristics that aren't going to be consistent through the whole garment. And while it will definitely make it look homemade, it's not going to make it look professional. You have to just give yourself time to get back into that groove, and even between projects, you have to get yourself out of the mindset of whatever your last project was and into your next project. Because your hands have that muscle memory, and they're going to think we're still working on the last project when what you want is for them to be working on the current project. Now, I'm going to take this other dowel and put it through the bottom. And I'm just going to let that sit there and drip for a minute. Reason being, I want it to relax a little bit and that dowel to come down. This, bring you up. The yarn doesn't start to set until it starts to dry. And so I have a little bit of time to just let it drip, let it kind of relax a little bit, make sure that everything's hanging straight. Let's see, I've got 3, 6 here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the other side. So I want them to be even on each side of the weight. And that way it's not stretching some of them out while others are not being stretched at all. And then Tina, what are you doing? You've been naughty. I'm just going to do one weight on this. I'm more confident this time around about what my results are going to be. So instead of having 2 on each side and 1 in the middle, I'm just going to do 1 in the middle. And it'll just hold the dowel down just a bit. I'm going to add this up to the top. The one thing I don't want to have happen is I don't want the top dowel to come off for any reason. Because if the top dowel comes down, all my yarn falls onto a stove. And if it's wet and I don't hear it, then it means the yarn will set in whatever shape it falls into. So that should be just about right. And I think it's going to be really pretty. I'm going to take you off and see if I can show you the color. This one, for some reason, is really tricky in the light, and it's hard to see what color it is. It looks kind of gray, but it's not gray. That's just the light reflecting off the fiber. See, there's no gray there. Can you see that? Where's my truer color? There at the back, I guess that shows truer because it's in the shade a little bit. But yeah, it looks gray on this end just because the light reflects off the individual fibers a little bit. And so this is a band not of gray, that's a band of light. So there we go. We're getting close to being ready to start knitting.